Let's take a breath together. This might be the talk that I inadvertently, just the way I live my life, know the most about. Critters. All of them. The little teeny tiny ones, the ones that bit me on the ankle in the middle of the night and made my leg itch, all of them. Because what we're talking about today is our oneness with an element of life that we very rarely lean into the oneness of. We oftentimes see animals as something we own, as something we use, as something we eat. I'm not saying any of that is negative. I'm saying that's how our human perspective tends to play out. And I want to invite you today to understand that animals actually may possibly in some realm have a level of superiority that we only hope to attain. And that is their failure to attach to whatever's happening here. They don't do that. Never have I been in the company of a group of animals that are discussing the rightness or wrongness of politics. I haven't experienced that yet. Never have I been in the company of a group of animals who are discussing and vilifying another animal who ate one of their family members. Haven't seen it happen. Because they simply live in the flow, in the natural law of creation. If you're not familiar, and it's an older book, but if you're not familiar with this book, The Laws of Spirit, A Tale of Transformation, Powerful Truths for Making Life Work by Dan Millman, I highly recommend this book. It is an easy read, it is a simple read, and it is a profoundly brilliant read. And a lot of my talk this morning is coming out of the first chapter of this. The law of balance. Why the law of balance? Because that's how nature lives. Nature lives in the law of balance. Even when the superior thinking human does profoundly unthinking things that constantly change the balance of nature. If you notice, nature and all of the critters in it keep making the adjustment to be in balance. Because perhaps that is the law, the universal law, that allows us to live most in alignment with creation, is balance. The story that Dan Millman writes, he's on a hike and he comes upon this cabin in the woods, and a sage meets him there. Now, the story itself is fictional, okay? But what he's talking about is anything but fictional. And this sage invites him to continue his hike with her. And she begins to point out some things. And she points out a snowy egret beside a pond, doing the 1 foot thing. And immediately he interprets, she asks, can you balance like that? And he's like, you mean on one leg? Sure. Now, if you know anything about Dan Millman, he was a champion competitive trampoline person. So I'm sure he can balance on one finger if he wants to. So physical balance, not an issue for Dan Millman. That's not what the sage was inviting him to. She said, no, not to stand on one leg, but can you feel the balance, the internal balance that the egret is feeling? Can you simply be where you are, surrounded by whatever you're surrounded with, and be at a place of inner stillness and peace and perfect balance? Because that's what's available to us. And animals, they pretty much live there. They pretty much live there. If you're not familiar with Jack Kornfield, my favorite Jack Kornfield quote: "If you can sit quietly after difficult news, if in financial downturns you remain perfectly calm, if you see your neighbors travel to fantastic places without a twinge of jealousy, if you can happily eat whatever is put on your plate, you can fall asleep after a day of running around without a drink or a pill, if you can always find contentment just where you are probably a dog." Right? I mean, I look at that. I can't do that. But I watch those two little furry things that have claimed me and Deborah as their humans. And I say it that way intentionally. We don't own those dogs. They own us. They claimed us as their own. They just roll with stuff. And when stuff is different and unusual, they find a center with it. Thor has more energy and more anxiety than any human being I've ever met. Taz, on the other hand, could give a rip about much of anything. They're siblings. They're litter mates. And they couldn't be more different. You put them in an elevator, Taz will lay down until the door opens. He's like, whatever. Thor is spinning in circles. Why is the box moving? Oh my God, what's happening? There's noise. But after a couple of times, he's calm. Now, we didn't do anything to make him calm, because there's nothing you can do to make him calm. But he finds his center in a situation that's unfamiliar. What we tend to do, what she points out in this book, the sage points out, that we tend to do is overcompensate deeper into our comfort zone than to change. Right? At one point, she's holding a stick on one finger to demonstrate balance. And then it starts wiggling back and forth. And this is what she says: desires and attachments pull you forward. Fear, resistance, and avoidance pushes you backwards. Now think about that in terms of our teaching. Vision pulls, pain pushes. Right? And so perhaps when we're out of balance, if we remember, are we being pulled or are we being pushed? Am I trying to go back into a comfort zone that's no longer serves me, that's no longer meant for me, or am I being pulled to something new? Either way, I'm out of balance, right? Because I want it to just remain exactly the way it is. Perhaps that's not balance. Perhaps that's stagnation, right? Because think about it. If you only ever stayed exactly the first place you were comfortable, where would you be? I'd be in a crib in a diaper with a bottle. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure the first sense of comfort I had was probably there. I certainly would never have learned how to walk, because I watch little kids try to figure out how to use their legs. It does not look comfortable. And it certainly does not look balanced. And we fall down. Okay. You're going to fall down as you continue to grow. So what? So what? So what of this connection with the animal world? How do we learn from them? Well, for starters, I think we have to get clear that they might possibly, in some realm, know something we don't know. I think we might have to just first open our mind to, just because we said we're the superior species doesn't mean we are. Perhaps. Perhaps. And then we learn to listen. And perhaps the best listening that occurs with the world around us starts by closing this and opening these. Perhaps listening at a spiritual level doesn't require your ears. Perhaps. Perhaps it requires connecting with the energy of that animal. Because we're all energy, right? Energy is energy is energy. And we have the capacity to align our energy with the energy of anything and everything in our environment. And perhaps when that heron or that egret is standing there on one leg, rather than just limiting ourselves to the visual experience, that while we are focused on that animal, we allow ourselves to open our heart to feel what is that egret feeling. What energy? What is the energy of balance? What are they paying attention to? What am I paying attention to? Because the quickest way to know that you're out of balance is to try to get in balance. Because everything that is out of balance is going to come up. It's going to come up. The harder it is to connect with an animal in nature, and I mean really connect with your heart space, not with your head space. And sometimes it's helpful to just put your hand right here when you're looking at an animal, to just put your hand right there and let yourself feel what's happening in your heart, what's happening in your energy. What is it there to teach you? Because I assure you, out of all the places on planet Earth that animals can be, they have arrived in your space for a reason. For a reason. One of the most beautiful experiences of my life was getting to study with the Eastern Band of the Cherokee on the Qualla. The Qualla is actually not a reservation. It's actually the land of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee that is leased back to the federal government. It is owned by the Cherokee. That's a rarity. And what they taught me in the 2 years I was there is the synchronicity with everything. And that any animal that shows up is bringing you a message. It's bringing you a gift, even if it's the dead possum on the side of the road. There's a reason that you're there and it's there at the same time. Are you willing to explore that? Are you willing to let yourself feel the vibration of that moment and be informed by it? We get really stuck in behaviors. We get really stuck in what we do and what other people do and what animals do. And if you notice, those of you that have pets, isn't it amazing how we interpret everything our animals do in very human terms? Right? We assign what they're thinking about us as if they're even thinking anything about us. Right? I'm pretty sure when Thor is chasing his ball, I'm not part of the equation. The only time I become part of the equation is when he wants to chase it again. And he brings it back to me for the sole purpose of throwing it for him. That's my part in that equation. The joy that he's experiencing is all of his own design. It is his innate joy to chase that ball that is driving his behavior. Ain't got nothing to do with me. His brother, on the other hand, you throw the ball and he turns around and looks at you like you threw it, you go get it. Doesn't bring him joy, so he doesn't do it. What if we only did what brought us joy? What if we lived with such clarity and such balance that we stop doing things because someone else expects us to do it? Because really, when I threw the ball for Thor, I had every expectation, for Taz, I had every expectation that he was going to chase it. I was the only one surprised when he laid down and went, not. Right? Did I stop trying? No. Because, see, my thinking is it's my job to train him to do what I want him to do. And how often do we do that with each other? And what if we leaned into, it's my job to learn how to support you in doing what you want to do? What if it's my job to love you even when I disagree with you? What if it's my job to go chase the ball that I threw because you don't want to? What if that's my job now? And what if I honor your perspective and stop throwing the ball? What if that? Right? Animals can teach us a lot if we will just learn to listen and be present with their energy. It's really not hard. It's really not. But she goes on to talk about this dilemma of balance. And she has him throwing rocks at a tree stump. And he lets the first rock go and he misses way left, right? Way left. And she says, try it again. You got information, right? You went way left, and it went even further left this time. Because our tendency when we change is to overcompensate in the direction of our comfort zone. And so we go deeper into what doesn't work than going to the opposite. So she hands him 4 more rocks, and she says, it's really important that you hit that tree with one of these rocks. And so he thinks about it, and he's like, okay, I have to overcompensate. And he throws, and he misses way right. And then he throws 2 more, and he misses both of those times. And now he's sweating because he doesn't know why it's important that he hit it with one of these 4 rocks. He just knows, I have 1 rock left, and I don't know how to hit this tree. And she walks him up to the tree. And she says, now throw it. And she points out, you don't have to stay where you are and make the correction. Nothing in what I said you can't go closer to the tree. But that's what we do, right? We anchor in our own thoughts that I have to make all of the adjustments from right here. And we forget that I can go forward, I can go backward, I can move side to side. Everything in the situation can move. And lo and behold, 10 feet away from the tree, he didn't have any problem hitting it. Move closer to your desire. Right? Vision pulls, pain pushes. And so if we're trying to find new balance from a point of pain, we're going to go back further. and our aim is going to be off even more. Allow yourself to be pulled, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you don't recognize the territory. Because if it's new, how are you going to recognize it anyway? Right? It's new. You're not going to recognize it. Perhaps that's a clue that you're on the right track, because we're always new. I'll wrap up with this. What I was taught is anytime I'm interacting with nature, to ask, what have you come here to teach me about me? And then listen. Not here. Here. Look with your eyes. See with your heart. Listen with your ears. Hear with your heart. It will tell you what it's there to teach you about you. Let's take this into prayer. What I know is that there is one infinite, one power, one presence, one life, one source, one substance, one continuous activity of creation. Creating out of itself, by itself, diversely, magnificently, individualizing itself in all of creation. And so I know that every form of creation must be the divine in form. And in the truth of oneness, I must be one with all, with each and every expression of divinity. No separation between me and the furry, the fuzzy, the flying, the tiny, the creepy, the crawly. In all other life, every human, every blade of grass, every grain of sand, one with all of it. And so I speak my word inviting a palpable relationship with every element of nature, where I experience the awe and wonder of infinite intelligence expressing as each individualized form. That I open to that impress, that communication of spirit of what it is there to teach me about me, to open a deeper place of experience, to expand as me through this brilliance of oneness, through this communication of energy. Grateful. So grateful to know that the word spoken is the word fulfilled, to know that it's already happening, it has been happening, and me awakening to it is the gift. And I say yes. And I invite you to claim these words as your own, if they fit for you now, to own them, to say yes to experiencing nature, to experiencing the divine in a new way, as we say together, and so it is.